like to welcome everybody to our monthly marketing webinar. We've been holding these since the beginning of the year, and every month we have a different topic. This month's topic is aquaponics, and it's really relevant to our program here at Piketon for Dr. Laura Tu and myself. Laura is the aquaculture specialist, and I'm one of the horticulture specialists here. We've actually got a combined research project looking at aquaponics. Aquaponics is another production method that producers can use to grow products, freshwater produce-type crops, as well as freshwater fish production, all in one unit, which allows us to diversify our marketing strategies. Whenever we're marketing our produce, we want to have a diversity of products to offer to our customers, and this combines both the aquaculture as well as horticulture crops all into one. To kick it off, I think we'll start with Dr. Laura Tu, who is our aquaculture specialist, and she's going to give an overview of aquaponics, how it differs a little from aquaculture and horticulture production, and then I'll finish the end of the program off today with some of the marketing strategies we need to keep in mind when we're wanting to market our aquaculture or aquaponics types of products. Little housekeeping: if you have questions, go ahead and type those questions down into the chat box, even as Laura is speaking or I'm speaking, because we'll try to incorporate those answers into our presentation as we go, because with being only an hour, we're not going to have a lot of time at the end to answer everybody's questions one-on-one, but we can hopefully incorporate those answers as we're going. This will be, it is being recorded, so you will be able to jump on if you miss some parts or you have some friends that maybe weren't able to join us today. They can jump on to our direct marketing website, and that has been Beth. Thanks to Beth Rigsby. She's helping run this whole show today. She put that down in the chat box for everybody can see that web address. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Laura Tu. We do got to exchange our headset here, so you might hear some ruffling around, but she is our aquaculture specialist here at the South Centers, and we'll go ahead and switch to headsets.
Thanks, Brad, and good afternoon, everybody. Pleased to be with you here today as we talk about aquaponics and marketing some of the products. Aquaponics has been a topic of great interest lately. I probably receive 10 to 15 requests for information every week. And the frustrating part has been is that it's a production system where the private industry has pretty much outpaced the public or the university system in terms of getting information. A lot of the information we have is from tropical areas like University of St. Croix and the Virgin Islands in Hawaii, and so a lot of us are just coming up to speed on this new production method. So Brad and I have been partnering together to try to learn more about aquaponics, and today we're going to share with you what we know. There's a lot of different scales when it comes to aquaponics, everything from the pictures you're looking at now, which is a very small homemade system made out of a Rubbermaid watering trough and some 2-liter bottles of Coke bottles with plants growing into them. The first system you see was called the farm fountain system. It was constructed up at Ohio State University just as a small indoor ecosystem. The one on your right is even more intriguing. It was actually an art project. There's fish in the tanks at the bottom and then lighted plant bottles up at the top. So aquaponics, as you can see, can be so small that it's just used for art. Okay, so now here's another example of a small system somebody might use. This is a backyard aquaponics photo that somebody sent where they're utilizing an old swing set. They have a tank of fish in an IBC container, and the bottom of the swing set, which is good because it protects the fish from sun and keeps it covered a bit so it doesn't get too much algae. And then as you can see, they have the plants up on top all together with a fake owl to try to keep the bird predation down to a minimum. But that's a very creative use of an existing space for food production right in the backyard. We've been working some with the OSU Agriculture Engineering School. There's a couple of professors there that are interested in aquaponics. There's actually a group of students, that's a capstone team, that got some funding from the General Motors Foundation to build this drain and flood system using materials that someone could find locally in Honduras. And they're down in Honduras right now This is their second summer that they've spent down there actually installing these small systems in some very rural villages to try to expand the growing season in some of these rural villages and help them produce food during periods of drought. In Ohio, one of the first aquaponics farm was a farm outside of Columbus called Rainfresh Harvest. They just had their big tour a couple of weeks ago, but Barry Adler runs a really unique zero-energy greenhouse system and uses aquaponics as a production system. He raises mostly mosquito fish and other non-food fish, and then on the top he raises some specialty herbs that he sells to restaurants in the short north. It's very high-value crops, small place. He does a little vermiculture, and he uses wind energy and solar energy and a little bit of geothermal energy, and actually is zero energy for 11 months of the year. He says sometimes he has to do a little heating in the wintertime. A newcomer to the block for about 2 years are Max and Marilyn Wolf in Ashtabula, Ohio, way up on Lake Erie. They built a 200 square foot aquaponic farm in their basement, so they don't get any natural light in this system. They use all grow lights, and I think it surprised them the first year on their electrical bill a little bit, but they're compensating for that. They have one 650-gallon tank. You can see the blue tank there up in the upper left, and with that they can grow about 1,700 plants, which they sell at the local farmers market. They're doing this as their retirement business. He said in a normal week he puts about 2 hours a day into the system, and it's just kind of low labor, and it's something that they do for fun. Here you can see Max feeding his fish. You can see he's got his grow beds up at a comfortable height for harvesting. He actually went to a couple of training courses in Tennessee and Florida to learn more about aquaponics, and he markets at the local farmers market. You can see he has some nice clamshell containers. He calls his product Happy Greens, raised without soil or pesticides. So he's very pleased with his small-scale system. Another system in Ohio is Farm Fresh Harvest, which is up in Richwood, Ohio, also north of Columbus. It's another business that's set up to potentially be a retirement business. The owners are not retired now, but they hope to do this as a retirement business. They started out with one large greenhouse, and they are currently in the process of adding another greenhouse. They actually use yellow perch as their fish of choice because they like the temperature requirements. The yellow perch have a similar temperature requirement to the plants that they're growing. You can see some, I think that Swiss chard that they're growing right there. They grow a lot of specialty lettuces, and they market at a couple of different farmers market, and they also have a lettuce club, which is a CSA that specializes in lettuce. This is a really fun farm to tour, and in fact this farm is hosting a tour on the OSU Sustainable Agriculture Tour on September 6th. This fall we'll all be up there. So if you have an interest in actually touring an aquaponics farm, this would be a great tour. It's free and available to the public. Another neat aquaponics project in Ohio is the Base Camp Cafe, which was put together by a few groups over at the Cincinnati Zoo. And they built this small aquaponics greenhouse right next to the restaurant at the Cincinnati Zoo. So if you go to the Cincinnati Zoo, you can actually eat some of the product right there. It's all served in the restaurant. It's fresh herbs and lettuce, and everything's grown right there and shipped right next door to the restaurant. A company called Waterfields in Cincinnati really provided some leadership for that project. Like Brad mentioned at the beginning of our talk, he and I put together a little aquaponics pilot system here at the South Center so we could learn about aquaculture firsthand, hands-on. So we joined together. We were awarded a small extension innovation grant, and because we had a lot of bits and pieces of different horticulture and aquaculture systems lying around, we built this very small, almost backyard scale system. We did have an unused greenhouse, and we had a free intern, which is always helpful, from Ohio University. So we have a 700-gallon tank. We started with some tilapia, and somehow a bluegill got in there as well. We've now switched over to yellow perch. Before we covered the tank, we had a few jumpers. So we quickly learned to lower the water level and put a better cover on our tank. And we have 3 floating beds for production. We wanted to test some different media to see what media we thought would work best in these type of floating systems. So we tested 3 different media. One is a hydrocorn, which is a type of expanded rock material that holds water well. Then we also, but it's very round in structure. You can see it's the red one on the upper left. The next media structure we used was expanded shale. It's another rock that's very porous and holds some water, but you can see that it has a lot of sharp edges and it's not as round as the hydrocorn. And then we compared this to a soilless planting mix commonly used in seeding and gardening. It's a mixture of peat, vermiculite, and perlite, just in some floating styrofoam trays. We also tested 3 different crops in these 3 different media. We grew some red Russian kale, red leaf lettuce, and some Mizuna, which is a specialty salad green. We're on phase 4 now, experiment number 4, and we've learned a lot by running this small system. The first thing we learned is we are using city water because of where our greenhouse is, and we have very hard water, which gives us a really high pH. So we're always battling and using a little muriatic acid to try to keep our pH around 7, which is what the aquaponics plants like. When we first started with just a dozen tilapia in the tank, that was just not enough waste product to support all the plants in phase 1. So we learned right away to really boost up our fish production. We currently have about 200 yellow perch in that system. We're using the yellow perch. They really like it in the system. We have a shade cloth over, so it helps keep them at the right temperature. Of the 3 media, the soilless vermiculite perlite mix worked best for us. The hydrocorn and the shale, we were seeding directly into the media, so we were not growing seedlings first and then putting them in with seeding directly. During phase 1, we did okay, but the hydrocorn and the expanded shale tended to absorb some of the salts in our water and really started impacting germination during phases 3 and 4. So for us in our small system, the vermiculite perlite mix works very well, very cheap, and easily locally available. One thing we noticed that we're doing in phase 4 now is our experiments were short, just until we could basically harvest all of our plants. And that won't work for somebody who's trying to sell into a farmer's garden. You need to have a system developed where you can rotate your fish and your plants. If you harvest all your plants at once, there's no plants left to clean the waste from the fish. If you harvest all your fish at once, there's no more fish to provide nutrients for your plants. So when you design your system, you need to either think about having multiple tanks of fish of multiple sizes so that you can rotate harvest and production, or you need to have mixed sizes in one tank and then constantly grade the large ones out for market. For most of the plants that we're growing, the lettuces and the leafy greens, it's about a 6-week growing cycle. So you also need to stage your plants so that you maybe have 6 different tanks and you harvest only 1/6 of your crop each week so that you keep your system up to a sustainable level of production to keep your system balanced, the amount of fish and feed balanced with the amount of plants. Another thing we notice is during the months of December and January and February, especially this year with our polar vortex, it got very cold in that greenhouse. It was expensive to keep the temperature up, and the plants with the limited daylight hours just didn't do as well. So we're thinking of looking at, if you had a small system, would it be more economically viable just to shut it down for those few months than trying to continue production just to save energy? As we get more into this aquaponics business, for the commercial scale systems, not these small balance systems, but for the larger commercial shell production systems, most of them are leaning towards what's called an uncoupled system. This is where you have a system capable of producing fish independently, and then you have a system capable of producing plants independently. You have them hooked together where a certain amount of the fish water is flushed through the grow beds, but not all of it. You're not trying to balance the system. You can use the system synergistically together, or you can separate them. This allows you to have more income from your fish because you can grow greater amounts of fish, and also more income from your plants. And you can easily separate the 2 systems if there's some kind of problem, and this may be necessary for large-scale commercial production. So I think as the industry grows, we're going to see more uncoupled systems. Let's just take a quick look at some of the species that we can grow in these systems. I think a lot of people start out with tilapia, which is number 2 on our list, and that's a great fish to start out with because it's very hardy and it's easy to get fingerlings. It feeds low on the food chain, and it's a delicious product. But they also grow at a very high temperature, 80 to 90 degrees, and that's a little bit hot for some plants. So people are starting to experiment with some other species. So I just made up a quick chart here about some species that I know of that are raised in aquaponics system and some of the market price you might get. Because in a small balance system, fish are probably only going to be about 10% of your income from the system. They're more or less just a waste generator or a nutrient generator for your plants. A lot of people don't worry too much about this this part of the marketing equation for their business, but it is something to think about. As I said, right now we're raising yellow perch. One of the reasons we do is because we have a lot of yellow perch on our facility, so fingerling availability is definitely something to think about and easy for us. Yellow perch can be marketed as a food fish or a sport fish. In Ohio, in fact, most of these fish that we are raising command much higher prices as a sport fish than they do as a food fish. So while food fish it's nice to grow food fish in these systems, sometimes with a little bit of niche marketing, you can make a lot more money selling them into a pond stocking or sport fish market. Yellow perch like temperatures, 55 to 78 degrees. They grow best during the 70s, so that's also a temperature that a lot of horticulture plants like, especially your leafy greens. And you can get anywhere from $275 to $450 a pound for yellow perch, depending on how many you have and what your marketing strategy is. Tilapia, again, are commonly raised as a food fish and becoming more popular as a sport fish. They're not really a sport fish. They're more of a algae-eating fish. A lot of people are stocking them into their sport fish ponds to help clean up the algae as an alternative to a white aimer. They do a great job at that, and they're becoming in demand in that market as well. Again, they like the high temperatures, and they price between $2.50 to $5 a pound. Catfish are one that a lot of people don't think of, but they do very well in tanks and crowded conditions. You can grow them as a food fish if it's a fish you like to eat. Their feed is relatively easy to get. You can also sell them on the sport fish market. And they have a wide temperature tolerance as well, a little bit cheaper in price. Bluegill and hybrids also do well in a tank environment, can be sold as food fish, sport fish for pond stocking, and also for bait. The big catfish pay lakes like to use a lot of bluegill for bait fish. Largemouth bass are one that I don't recommend. Largemouth bass and hybrid striped bass I don't recommend starting out with. These can be very sensitive fish, and they're probably better for people who have some fish handling experience, know a little bit about fish. But if you can grow them and you have a market demand, they do command some of the higher prices, especially largemouth bass as a food fish into the ethnic markets. Trout do well in tanks, but they require a much colder water temperature, about 50 to 60 degrees. West Virginia University is doing a lot of research on cold water aquaponics. So if you're interested in raising trout, or you have stream water, or you're for some reason dealing with some cooler temperatures, trout would be a species to check out. For some supplemental stocking, some researchers at Kentucky State University, and we're also going to look at this summer, are looking at stocking the freshwater prawn underneath the plants. If you look at the bottom right, you'll see a picture of an adult male freshwater prawn. This would be something you would put under your plants. It would help clean up any solid fish waste that happen to get into your plant system, and they can keep the roots of your plants grazed down to enhance the oxygen exchange on the root system. We don't know a lot about this yet. You certainly wouldn't produce a large volume, but if at the end of the year you had a couple of extra freshwater prawn, pounds of prawn, or pounds of red claw crayfish for yourself, that would be a nice little bonus feature. The red claw crayfish underneath the plants are also popular for use, especially for a system out of Indiana. The challenge with these is finding red claw crayfish fingerlings. The advantage of the red claw over the freshwater prawn is that the red claw will spawn in fresh water, and you can actually reproduce your own to keep a growing stock available. I'm not really sure about market prices for red claw. There's never been enough available as a food fish on the market to actually have a set price. I know that a breeding pair can cost as much as $50 to $100 to get started. A couple of species that not many people think about but also do well in these systems, if you're not interested in growing a food fish, you just really want to supply some nutrients to your plants. Bait fish like goldfish or small carp that are used in pay lakes can do well in these type of systems and are relatively hardy and have a good temperature tolerance. Bait fish, if you find the right market, can sell for relatively high prices. And of course, ornamentals like koi that are sold into water gardens, some are cheap and sold for bait, and then of course the price goes up into thousands of dollars, but they're also very hardy and have a wide temperature tolerance. So it's important to explore all these different species. If you have particular questions about any one of them, we can help you find fingerlings, what type of feed they eat, and different requirements. There are some great resources out there. Again, this will be online. You can join one of our Aquaponics listserv or our Aqua Ohio listserv if you want to be more tied into what's happening in the aquaculture industry or be notified of any aquaculture or aquaponics training that's happening in the state. So in summary, aquaponics is more popular than ever. It does have high energy costs. Make sure you get some training before going into it on a large scale. Avoid shysters. Again, the private industry has far exceeded the university industry, so there's a lot of systems for sale out there that don't have unbiased evaluations on them yet. Use careful business planning and start with a small pilot system so you can learn. Be ready to market a high-value product. The fish coming out of these systems and the plants, you don't have a lot of products, so you have to get the highest value for it. And keep connected with the research organizations so that you can keep abreast of the newest and latest updated research about aquaponics. I think that's all I have today. I'm going to throw it back to Brad, and he's going to talk about direct marketing your horticulture products that come out of this system. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat square, and we'll just keep going from here. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Laura. And again, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and just type them down there in that chat box. Hopefully everybody can see we've drug on the marketing part of today's presentation. I just lost my little thing. Where's the advancer? There we go. There we go. Okay. That was a good introduction to aquaponics, aquaculture. When Laura approached me about working with her on this project, I mean, when we market any of our products, to have a diversity of products is the way to go. On many operations, we have a diversity of produce products, but I thought it was really neat that we could actually incorporate two food crops, looking at the aquaculture crops as well as the horticultural crops. And, you know, why not? The discharge from the aquaculture operation can feed our horticulture crops, and it's a good combination of the two systems. I see there's a question down below about looking forward to the slides and the sites mentioned. For some of you that may have joined later, if you go into that chat box, or maybe I think Beth's still on, she can repost that website. But all of our marketing webinars from this year, as well as this one, will be available to view as soon as this is done and we get it downloaded. You will be able to take a look at them, or if others haven't been able to participate today, they can jump on board. So what we're going to do is just talk a little bit about the direct marketing strategies for your aquaponics operation. And all these marketing webinars, as well as the direct marketing work we do in Ohio, is a team effort. And Rob leads as one of our direct marketing team members, and some of the information in today's presentation Rob has actually put together, so we incorporated some of Rob's slides in with today's marketing section for our aquaponics presentation. But just a little bit of an overview of marketing. Any of us that are growing horticultural crops or aquaculture types crops, we pretty well have this, but sometimes we need to go back and review the basics of marketing. And when we talk direct marketing, that's where us as farmers can actually take our products and sell them directly to the consumer. whether that's a consumer housewife that is going to go home and be preparing that food for their family that evening, or if it's direct to a grocery store or a wholesale supplier. We have many of those markets here in Ohio with our large population we have. So direct marketing is just an opportunity for us as farmers to sell our product direct to the end user as close as we can. When it comes to direct marketing, Laura mentioned a lot of it, especially when we're looking at the fish species, as well as the horticultural crop species that we want to produce in these aquaponic systems. What can be grown from a horticulture perspective? Just about any crop can be grown. However, you do want to do your marketing research and maybe see who your target customer is going to be. And with today's marketing section, we will share some resources that are available to you to do that marketing research, to see maybe you have an ethnic neighborhood that you're targeting for your market. And then you can actually go and use some of these resources to see who are in that target market, and then go ahead and select your horticultural crop species as well as your aquaculture species accordingly. So it's good to know your customers, whoever you're selling to. Markets, a country, farmers market's going to have a different customer base than one in Hyde Park, Cincinnati. Just two different market customers. They're going to demand different products and probably going to need different types of varieties and or packaging for those markets. So then we'll go into some of the resources that are available for you. Looks like that got a little messed up with the thing, but you can still get the general gist. This is just if we are selling directly to wholesale buyers or selling directly to consumers. Wholesale buyers can be chefs, restaurants, caterers, both high-value crops, both from an aquaculture as well as a horticultural crop perspective. A lot of specialty grocery stores, the Whole Foods types of markets, they're going to require a little different type of product than some of the larger chain type stores we may target. Then there's a lot of specialty retailers that'll maybe concentrate on organic or some other type of product that they're needing to sell directly to their customers. We do have a great food service type of marketing here in Ohio. The farm to school program continues to grow, and with an aquaponics type of a setup and operation, especially if we're pushing that 9 to maybe 12 month a year production, that would fit very well with our schools and our institutions that require that every month or every week delivery, whereas our seasonality here in Ohio, both from what Laura has taught me from an aquaculture production perspective as well as a horticulture perspective, that seasonality can impact our marketing and shut off maybe up to six months of the marketing year can be shut down, especially in terms of horticulture production if we're doing strictly field production or using even some season extension techniques. Most of our producers that are in this type of specialty type production with aquaponics are selling directly to consumers because it's just such a nice mix to have both of those products being harvested out of that same production system. Those types of markets would include both on and off farm markets, lots of retail farm markets. Christy Welch is our farmers market specialist here at the South Centers and does a bang-up job on organizing our Ohio farmers markets and helping with education research in those areas. And we have lots of farmers markets available that we can sell our products directly on a retail basis to the customers. Laura mentioned a couple of these in her presentation, but CSAs, or Community Support Agriculture, there was a large growth in that marketing arena, the last 3, 4, 5 years ago. It has leveled out, but still lots of opportunity. And again, with an aquaponics setup where you can actually have a fish product along with a horticultural type product, be selling that, especially on a 9 or 12 month basis, that would be just a great setup, I would think. And Laura mentioned one of the CSAs that are doing aquaponics here in Ohio. Agritourism, that's another one that, if you're already doing it, you might be able to bring in school tours, or you might be able to bring in some types of tourism groups, bus tours, what have you. A lot of the aquaculture operations here in Ohio, as well as all the horticultural operations, open up their doors to agritourism and visitors on a regular basis. And then by bringing in those visitors or those those tourists, then that opens you up to direct sales to those customers. Direct marketing nationally, though, if you look at a national perspective, it's increasing dramatically, and there's lots of opportunity to sell direct to those customers, whether we're going direct to consumer, whether we're doing a little bit of both, or we're doing some of those intermediate marketing channels. And there's lots of opportunities out there to collect this type of resource information, and there's one of those listed right there from the USDA on a survey that was done on how much opportunity there is for us as direct marketers to sell our product direct to the consumer. In Ohio, from an Ohio perspective, this also continues to grow. Dr. Julie Fox headed up and actually started our direct marketing program here in Ohio at the OSU South Centers. She's went on to bigger and better things within Extension, but we still have our direct marketing team that's heavily involved with direct marketing in Ohio. And within Ohio, we have, again, a growing number of farmers markets, over 160. On-farm markets, we have over 650 of those, according to the Ohio Department of Agriculture. The wineries, the craft brewers, those are both increasing with leaps and bounds. Over 120 CSAs, according to the Ohio Ecological Food and Farm Association. And then another direct-to-consumer, but more of a wholesale, which means you don't have to stand there and be happy for 8 hours a day at a farmer's market, but you could still directly sell your product to the end consumer at wholesale produce auctions, which many of our wholesale produce auctions, we have 10 of them in Ohio, also have a retail section for us smaller producers. Other ways that we can direct market in Ohio would be through, like we mentioned, the specialty grocery stores, schools. A lot of colleges are now buying direct from the farmers. There are some cooperative marketing efforts. Our Harvest Cooperative down in Cincinnati is one cooperative marketing and production cooperative that we've helped get started over the last few years, and they are pooling a bunch of small growers together to market their products to the larger markets throughout the Cincinnati and northern Kentucky area. We have a lot of chef grower networks throughout Ohio, and mainly concentrate around our big cities, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Cleveland, but those are good chef-to-grower collaboratives that maybe if it's close to your farming operation, you can join one of those and, specifically grow varieties of lettuce or different species of fish that maybe those chefs need for their specialty dishes and their specialty offerings that they have throughout the year. There's a lot of local and regional food initiatives, again, concentrate around the larger cities. We have Northwest Ohio initiatives, Northeast Ohio initiatives, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton. But if your farm is in the periphery of those larger areas, you may want to become involved with those local and regional food initiatives, because right along that it puts our buyers in direct connection with our producers. And then don't forget, like Laura mentioned in her presentation, there are some opportunities for us backyard gardeners. You can have that small aquaponics setup that she started off her presentation with, but you're going to have some production coming off of that. So whether you share it with the neighbors or sell it to the neighbors, what have you, there's all kinds of opportunities, big or small, in terms of aquaponics marketing and production. When it comes to direct marketing our products and how it relates to agriculture, it is interactive. When you get more towards the wholesale end of direct marketing, that's not as interactive as going to a farmer's market once a week or twice a week and standing there and visiting with thousands of people on a Saturday morning and afternoon. But that is the difference. The more we have that interactive connection with our consumer, usually the retail or the price we receive, which is usually retail, increases for us as farmers. But direct marketing as it relates to agriculture is just, again, selling direct to the consumers. That would be individuals, families, restaurants, tour groups, large companies, what have you. That's a quote from the North American Farmers Direct Marketing Association. We do have the Farmers Market Association here in Ohio. We have our OPGMA, which is the Ohio Produce Growers and Marketers Association. But then we also have on a national scale the North American Farmers Direct Marketing Association, which is a good group if you want to get involved with. You can actually get some direct marketing opportunities that are being done in other states and by other farms, and maybe bring those to your operation, because I know we've had many of our Ohio producers become involved with that group and have adopted and brought a lot of new marketing techniques to their operations just by being involved with that association. So why would we want to consider direct marketing? The more we can market direct to the consumer, the more of that food dollar that we as farmers are going to receive, because we've all seen these, but when you break up that food dollar, the farmer gets a very, very small piece of that, almost like 11 cents to 12 cents out of that entire dollar goes back to the actual producer, the farmer. So if we can direct market as close as we can cut out a lot of that food processing, a lot of that transportation, a lot of the retail and food service trade. Every one of these little pieces of the food chain pull a little bit of money from that dollar, and by us going direct marketing as farmers, we can get more of that food dollar coming back to our farm families. But this was a combination that Julie Fox had actually put together, because there is a combination of marketing, and not every farm is going to have this same combination. You almost have to develop this combination for your own operation, because everyone's going to be different. Different people are going to be involved in the operation. But it involves all the P's, the plan and process on how you're going to get that product produced and to the consumer, to the market, how you're going to promote your farm or your product. Where are you going to place that product? Are you going to use a local farmers market? Are you going to use a CSA? Are you going to use some of the local chef restaurant connections? You have to have a place that you're going to put that product in order to market it. What are your products? Laura mentioned some of the good products we can do that we're looking at, and that can be done in the aquaponics operation, but we have not even explored all of them. But from the horticulture perspective, we could probably just produce anything, because all we're using is that fish water to use as a fertility for any crop that we're going to grow. But for the most part, you can grow a lot of specialty lettuces, a lot of specialty varieties, a lot of products, and then Laura share with you all the different aquaculture type products that can be produced. And then the people that we're going to market to, the people that are going to be involved in our operations. If it's a family operation, I think from the pictures Laura showed, everybody seemed to be on board, whether it was a family or whether it was a husband and wife operation. But you have to have all the people involved in the operation on board in terms of where they're going to market to. Some people in part of the operation may not be people. You may want to keep Grandpa or Dad out in the field or back in the greenhouse tending to the fish and managing the planting and the harvest, but then maybe a daughter or son or a wife has the people skills that can be up working at 4 in the morning loading trucks and then get to the farmer's market at 7 and stand there till 3 in the afternoon on the hot blacktop and be happy the entire day. You don't want Grandpa, who's going to be grouchy and chewing people's head off, standing there being that face person. But make sure you have a face person that could be out there direct marketing your product. So it takes a combination of all these plan and process, promotion, places, products, and people. And one of the specialists in this arena, Peter Drucker, marketing is not only much broader than selling. It is the whole business seen from the customer's point of view. And that's even how your operation looks. If you are especially taking advantage of some of the agritourism types of direct marketing opportunities, then you have to have it be almost a show place, look real good. You got to worry about the safety aspects of people going through. The pictures Laura showed of our operation isn't the best. We have cleaned it up. We don't have extension cords hanging from the wall and the ceilings anymore. So, but you would not want to have people tripping over water lines and walking across extension cords. You want to, no water on the floor. You want to have drains that are working well. So just keep all that in mind, depending on which direct marketing you are pursuing for your particular operation. Bottom line, though, it has to be the farm goals, the family goals, your own personal goals. Most of it is to make money, but you also may be looking at aquaponics to expand an existing business. Maybe you already have an aquaculture operation. Maybe you already have a horticultural operation. By getting into aquaponics, you can actually expand your offerings that you can give to your customers. But remember, there is diversification or risk to diversification. More management. You got to have fish to feed every day. Tom Harker, who's our horticulture assistant here at the South Centers, He's been complaining to me quite a bit that he has to go feed fish every day and he has to monitor their pH and their oxygen levels and all this stuff. I mean, really, I used to have my own dairy herd back when I was in high school and early college years, and I almost think these fish might be close to as much tender loving care. The cows didn't die near as quick as these fish die. If your oxygen levels can go up, something can mess up with the water, or if that plant isn't at the stage that it's absorbing a lot of the affluent that's coming from the aquaculture or the fish, you can have a lot of levels mess up, and then you have floating fish within a couple hours, which did occur to us here. So we're making the mistakes in terms of aquaponics that we can hopefully share with you all to try to reduce that risk. But just remember, there's always going to be risk involved whenever you diversify your operations, and especially when you get into new areas that you have not pursued before. Laura shared with you that we can harvest fish and we can harvest crops from the aquaponics production system just about year-round if we want to. We'll have to work a little bit on that heat in the winter months, but for the most part we can extend our harvest season both from the fish production as well as the horticultural crop production and the things. And the more you can extend your season, the more you're going to increase that cash flow that's coming back in to your farm family. Like Laura mentioned, within aquaponics, the volume may not be there. In order to get a lot of volume like you may get from an acre of lettuce, you may need to have a larger greenhouse operation, a little bit more infrastructure involved. But for the most part, with even the small systems, you can have enough volume, and then you go and do direct market that right to the consumer and get those high returns, like Laura was sharing on the fish potential that we could sell the fish for, as well as the higher end value on the lettuce. I was just in one of the stores here this morning and saw a 3/4 ounce package of basil for $3.99. It's like, gosh, that's some high value stuff. So I haven't talked to Laura about that yet, but we may be looking at, especially here in the summer production season of our aquaponics, to look at a possibility of growing basil in there if we can get that type of price from that type of a crop. Just remember, though, anything we do is a way of life. If you are committed to a farmer's market type of a setup, remember you're going to have to be happy and you're going to have to be a people person on a year-round or season-long basis. There is some social interaction. Farmers markets really have a little social aspect to them, so if you're looking for that, you might want to consider that one. And then there's other family reasons you might too. We've got a lot of slides here, so I think I'm going to fly through some of this. But when it comes to farmers markets, what are the benefits to the farmer? Compared to wholesale, we get larger prices. You really don't have much investment because you have the farmers market that's providing the lot, providing the area. All the farmers pool their resources together to pay for the insurance and maybe even a market manager. You do get immediate payment, so you go in the morning, and by the time you go home in the afternoon, you have your money in your pocket. Unlike some wholesale accounts, can be up to 30, 60 days before you get that return in that payment. Collective selling, at a farmer's market, you can have the aquaculture guy, you can have the bakery girl, you can have the berry person, you can have the lettuce person. You don't have to have everything, but the customer can come and do that one-stop shopping. A lot of customer interaction when you go to the farmer's market, and then have your focus products, whatever you will get to be known for, whether you're the strawberry person or the fish person or what have you. Transportation of the product when we're selling is a concern. It costs money. I personally, my family sells at 8 farmers markets between Cincinnati and Columbus, and the diesel fuel bill alone to run trucks to all those markets gets pretty expensive. So remember, there is a cost. You may not consider that when you're doing your budgeting, but there is a cost to transport that product. Remember the harvesting requirements. Most of the markets want fresh harvest, so you may have to get up real early in the morning and put on your coon hunter's hat or light on your hat in order to go out and harvest that lettuce early in the morning before the sun even comes up. On my own personal farm, we harvest sweet corn at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and got a whole sets of lights on the tractor to facilitate that harvest. Remember, though, when you go to a market or any type of marketing, you're going to be off the farm. Somebody's going to not be working on the farm, and when you leave that farm 8 hours a day, going to a market, you're going to not be able to be out in the field working that crop as much as if you were able to stay on the farm all day. And then remember, there are a limited number of market days. Mondays are really bad. Weekends are good. The weekend begins for most produce farmers on Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is good. Mondays are pretty much a dog when it comes to direct marketing. There are some wholesale produce auctions that are open on Mondays, but even that, if you look at the big picture, Mondays are really a low sales day. So try to figure out what you're going to do with that product on those by having those limited number of days, especially earlier in the week. There are benefits to the consumer, though. That's why so many consumers are wanting to buy direct and local. Much fresher product. They also have fun coming to these markets and socializing, whether it's a CSA market or a farmer's market. They get to put a face with their food. They get to know the farmer. If there are issues, they know they can come to the farm. They know how to contact the farmer. It just gives them they feel better about knowing where their products and their food is coming from. And then you're always going to get new products, especially with this aquaponics. We can grow so many neat, Mizuna spinach. That's an oriental green. We have done some of that work out in the field, but we're getting such a beautiful product in our aquaponics system here at the South Centers at Piketon that we can actually expand and grow a lot of newer type products for our consumer. Other direct marketing trends, we already mentioned CSAs, but CSAs, there's 140 to 160 in the state of Ohio. That has leveled out. Talking to CSAs throughout Ohio, we're not seeing the growth that we were, but it's pretty well leveled out, and those that are good farmers and good producers are still in the business. Those that aren't good, it's so easy when the checks start coming in January, February, March for these subscription fees. These are consumer pays in advance of the season. So that's what the bottom line for a CSA is. And when a farmer's getting these checks coming in, they hate to shut down the subscriptions, but then you got to remember they have to produce when it comes to season, when it comes to the season and when that pickup begins. And we've had a few farmers that just were too, money hungry and just kept taking in that money and then weren't able to produce when we got into the heart of season in July and August. And that makes a black eye for all of our farmers and all of our CSAs, but we're not seeing too much of that anymore. Most everybody that's in the CSA business in Ohio pretty well knows what they're doing and can manage them appropriately. But we get that operating capital in advance. That's why the consumer will pay in January, February, March. This year especially, there's not many blackberry crops, not very many peach crops. The strawberry crop is only about 20 to 30% so far of what we had last year. So the consumer as well as the farmer share that risk of that production. So you have to educate the consumer that, you may have signed up in January thinking you get blackberries, but then we had 3 polar vortex events with minus 20 degrees, and therefore there will be no blackberries this year. So it's just an education thing, but the risk is shared between the consumer and the producer. You, as the farmer, have a guaranteed market if you pursue that CSA. Mainly CSAs concentrate on crop production, but since Laura and I have been working on this aquaponics thing, I can't see why this would not fit with a CSA type of a setup. And like Laura shared with you, there are farmers that are taking advantage of that marketing opportunity. But remember, you don't have to produce everything. You can concentrate on a fruit CSA. You can just concentrate on this aquaponics CSA. You can just concentrate on a vegetable CSA. It's really whatever your farming operation decides to offer to those consumers. But other concerns is trying to develop that customer base. Most of the time you have to have a wider range of product, the harvesting requirements, the management requirements of growing those crops, as well as a lot of member concerns. Sometimes the consumer finds out CSAs are not for them because they go on vacation for 4 weeks out of the 15 or 20 weeks season. They're not getting their product. They can't pick it up. They got soccer practice. They can't get to the market to pick it up in the mornings when the pickup time is. So there are concerns, but we can educate the consumer of those concerns. We got about 10 minutes left. I got a lot to cover here. So some of the advantages to consumers, whether it's direct marketing or CSA, though, is the food is more nutritious, tasty. That's what some of the feedback we've been getting. Allows the consumer to reconnect with the farmers and the land. Most CSAs either are working CSAs where the customer can come to the farm and actually do a little bit of work, or most CSAs invite their customers out to the farm at least once a year so they can actually learn and see how that crop is being produced. And most of the time with CSAs, they can experience a wider range of fruits and vegetables as well as other crop offerings. if you're interested in finding or starting a CSA, there's some things to keep in mind. You know, the length of your harvest season, what products you're going to do, what are the goals of the producer, the goals of the consumer, and there's lots of directory listings that you can try to find a CSA or even offer your own CSA listing on. We'll have these here real quick. Fees, frequency of those fees, frequency of pickups can vary. Most of them average about 20-week season. Some are down to 10 weeks depending on their cropping mix. Fees are based on the amount of products. Some are half bushel shares, full bushel shares. Some have a box. Every CSA is different. And we have a lot of, we've had CSA workshops where we've actually brought in folks on a panel and they've discussed that. So there's a lot of information out there if you're interested in starting a CSA. The product variety can vary by variety of the fruit and vegetable, the attributes, whether it's organic, not organic, sustainably grown. And then along with CSA, we want to educate the consumer of how to use that produce through recipes, newsletters, and like I said, opportunities to visit the farm. When it comes to distributing our product, you can pick those up at the farm, or you can pick them up at farmers market, or you can pick them up at other drop-off points. Can be neighborhood pickup points for those CSAs. When it comes to who is buying and selling the product, how do we put that customer along with the grower? Again, the demographics are important, and I'll share with you here real quick some of the ways we can find out those demographics. And then the sellers, can be a formal or informal arrangement through either a cooperative, a reseller, and different types of preferences that the seller may want to set up with that customer. Here's some resources available. Again, if you can't get these all down, you can come back and refer back to this after we're done here today. But the USDA has a lot of information on CSAs. I see there's a question here. Are there any aquaponics CSAs in operation in Ohio? Yes, Laura did mention one early on that we shared.
Not on the fish side, though.
Oh, but not on the fish side. Okay, she corrected me. The one that she shared earlier was that they're just selling the lettuce, but they're not selling the fish. So, yeah, according to Laura, and I'm not familiar with any either, there are none, no CSAs that are selling the fish. They're just selling the horticultural crops off of that. But very good idea. Might be an opportunity for some of our folks. Some other resources, ATRA, the SARE. There's been a lot of research and projects done from SARE. And then we have the Wilson College has some CSA information as well. One that I'd like to get to, make sure you all are familiar with, is our directmarketing.osu.edu website. Lots of great resources available on there. Other ways we can do our market research and to learn our industry is through Google Alerts, socialmention.com. Lots of ways to see what is the newest and most sought after produce commodities or aquaculture commodities that might be out there, and we get to know our customers by using those. Lots of online blogs, Facebook, YouTube. Listen to complaints from your customers. At the end, our family has a CSA, and at the end of every year we send out a survey of our CSA customers as well as our direct marketing customers to see, what new varieties are you looking for, what don't you like, what do you like, and one thing is potatoes. We've always grown a lot of white potatoes. This year, half the acreage is sweet potatoes, and the other half is still remaining white potatoes just because that's what the customers want. So listen to your customers, do your research, watch what's happening out there. Other ways to do consumer research, like I mentioned earlier, looking at the demographics and maybe the specific neighborhood communities. We can do that through focus groups, informal surveys, but the neatest one that you can do, and it's totally free, is Ohio Market Maker. Again, Dr. Julie Fox, who headed up our direct marketing program for Ohio, brought Ohio Market Maker. It was like the third state in the United States to have it, and I think we're up to close to 30 states that have a Market Maker marketing program within Ohio. But this is what you'll see if you just go. We have changed the website because it has been changed. It's no longer housed at the University of Illinois. It's housed at another entity at the current time, and that's where it's going to stay. But this is what you'll see when you jump on Ohio Market Maker. So you just go to oh.foodmarketmaker.com, and not only can you set up your own site to sell your own product, you can also buy product, but then there's also a very neat search engine on here that can help you zero in and do the research on different demographic areas. Say you want to target a new neighborhood, you can actually see who lives in that neighborhood, what their per capita income is, what their nationalities are, give you an idea of what commodities you can grow. When you get into Ohio Market Maker, this is the site you'll see. So you can see there's a lot, and it's free. Go ahead and we have a lot of partners, and you'll see those listed on the Ohio Market Maker site that have helped fund this over the years. And I don't believe that the demographics and the market research portion is being used near what the power is there that us farmers could utilize when it comes to determining and finding a new market or targeting a new market area. So check out Ohio Market Maker. I think it's going to help you a lot. We just got a few minutes here, but again, I'd like to thank Rob for helping us with putting some of these slides together. There's my information. Like Laura had said, she has her aquaculture listservs, and she also has an aquaponics listserv that she has just started here in the past year, which has a lot of information coming in. She does a great job keeping that up. But we also have a horticulture listserv, some other crops we're working on. We've got a big hops research and marketing initiative working with our Ohio Craft Brewers Association. So we have a hops listserv. And we also have a VegNet listserv where we have our fruit and vegetable weekly newsletters you might be interested in getting. But if you are interested in any of those, my email is listed there, just bergefurd.1@osu.edu. There's our direct marketing website. And again, you can go to that website and get all the webinars that we're holding this year, as well as the one we're doing today. You can get the links off of that. In general, there is our southcenters.osu.edu website. If you are interested in business planning, our business team can do a bang-up job on helping you put together a business or marketing plan. We work very close, Laura and I both. If they're working with an aquaculture operation or a horticulture operation, we work with our business folks on putting that business and marketing plan together for that targeted producer or operation. If you're up in the northern part of the state, there's Rob Leeds' contact information. He's the ag educator there in Delaware County. And I think that is it. We've got a couple minutes here. We can do some more questions. If you have questions, you can put them down there in the chat box. But hopefully today you've learned a little bit about a new and upcoming industry in Ohio, aquaponics, where we're blending both horticultural production with aquaculture production. And from a direct marketing standpoint, I think it has a great opportunity for our Ohio producers. And like we were saying, there are no fish CSAs out there currently. So in terms of marketing, it is a wide open opportunity for anybody that might be interested in forming an aquaponics type of a CSA or marketing perspective. We have a couple questions being typed in there. So again, appreciate everybody jumping on today. And if you didn't catch all this, visit our direct marketing website. You can see today's presentation at any time after we get it posted here in a few hours. So Sarah said not related to fish, but are there any upcoming hops workshops coming up? Yeah, if you're interested in hops, just send me an email. We'll get you added to our hops listserv. And in July, I think it's the week of the 14th maybe, we are going to be at Brew Week in Athens, 2 days that week presenting. We are going to be in Mahoning County, Cuyahoga County, at Worcester. There are lots of upcoming workshops. So yes, if you want to know more about hops, just send me an email. We'll get you added to our hops listserv, and that's the way to keep up to date in that arena, as well as Laura's aquaculture, as well as our horticulture listserv. But again, hope we helped you understand aquaponics and the opportunities you have at direct marketing of aquaponics in Ohio. And any questions, feel free to get a hold of us. And thanks, Laura, for joining me today. I think this is the first time maybe this has been team taught here this year. So we've done a great job, and Laura and I always work good together. So appreciate everybody jumping on today. Any questions, feel free to call or shoot us an email. We got one more question coming in here. It might be about hops. I doubt it, though. Oh, Brian's thanking us. Thank you, Brian, for jumping on, and appreciate you guys being here today. Mark Bodicher, Hardin County Ag Educator, he's typing in a question or two here. And Mark, send me your VegNet report. I have not received that yet today. Everybody's typing. I'm sure we're getting thank yous and accolades today, Laura. So thanks again, everybody. We'll be on here for a little bit. what kind of bug problems do you have with aquaponics? Mark, sorry about that. In terms, we've had some aphids, we've had some whitefly on our lettuce crops. Anything in particular we found?
The thing is that the crops in an aquaponics system can actually be certified organic if you have the right certifier who knows how to do it. So we do have some bug issues, just some aphids and some whiteflies. Most of them can be treated with ladybugs or other organic methods. So we just now started to have bug problems in the summer. In the off season, we didn't have any, so that could be an advantage or a disadvantage. But haven't seen a lot yet. Just the kind of the usual and easily treatable with ladybugs so far.
Yeah, and there are a lot of organic OMRI-approved pesticides, Mark, that you can put in for insect or bug problems. So, all right, Brad, glad to see you. Hopefully we can add that to the Lighthouse Youth Group's production system there and get you guys going on aquaponics. Any questions, feel free to type them in. Laura and I will be around for a while, but thanks everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, and aquaponics, a cleaner way to grow. The plants can be organic. The fish cannot be certified organic, but the plants can.
Yeah, Laura just wanted to reiterate that the fish cannot be certified organic, but the plants can if you have the right certifier. Since this is a new system for Ohio, our traditional OFA is one of our certifying agencies in Ohio. They may not be familiar and may need to become educated themselves on how they can. But no pesticides can be used anyway, so it is a great setup to get certified organic because the fish can't have our traditional pesticides used in them. So, and the product is good. We've done lots of harvest here and have our staff eat salads made from our lettuce greens, and they love them. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback. All right, thanks everybody. We'll be sitting here if there's a few last-minute questions, but I appreciate everybody jumping on. And stay tuned for next month. I should have looked. I cannot remember what we're talking about next month, but it will be on the listservs for sure. So thanks a lot. We'll talk to everybody later.